Hello, my name is Hunter, and this is the World War Z alphabet book. World War Z is by Max Brooks. A is for avarice. Avarice, it means not just greedy, but extremely greedy. With the fear of being infected, certain people would be more than extremely greedy and make wealthy people pay for some sense of security. People were smuggled through borders, military officers looked the other way, and even the Chinese Prime Minister was in on some illegal activity that earned him money. B is for brain. The way to really kill a zombie was not with guns, but destroying the brain. Sure, you could kill them with a bullet to the head, but they could still reanimate if their brain isn't completely destroyed. The most common form of getting rid of corpses was burning the bodies. C is for China. China is where the Solonum virus was tracked all the way back to. Ironically, the country also has the largest population. The outbreak of China was traced to the Yangtze River that runs through their southern region. D is for Dr. Quang Jingsu. Dr. Quang Jingsu is a Chinese medical doctor. He is the first doctor to witness the first known patient of the Solonum virus. Ironically, he is an evidence when he first heard about this boy with a disease which made him act and look like a zombie. E is for evacuation. Instead of fighting like some of the citizens would, these evacuees would pack up their whole family and just try to run away from the zombie war. Seen as cowards, most would not survive either way. They hold a personal spot to me because I would honestly do the same as them. F is for fear. This is a quote from the book. The only rule that ever made sense to me, I learned from history. Not an economics professor at Wharton. Fear. He used to say, fear is the most valuable commodity to the universe. That blew me away. Fear of aging. Fear of loneliness. Fear of poverty. Fear of failure. Fear is the most basic emotion we have. Fear is primal. Fear sells. Fear is what motivates everybody to do something. This also ties back to avarice. G is for the Great Panic. The Great Panic is what's called after the assuming plague was taking storm on the world. The plan for evacuation was to drive west to California because of the outbreak all over the East Coast. 3 billion uninfected people were alive at this point when this plan was activated. The incoming onslaught was horrific and terrifying for everybody. H is for the human race. The human race is at the brink of extinction during the whole course of the book. This virus wipes out most of the population until it is thoroughly taken care of. When the zombie war, a lot of pre-war problems were taken. The human race started and ended their own threats of extinction. That with the disease spreading and not taking care of it, then ending with living in their own separate communities. I is for the interviewer. The interviewer is a mysterious character in World War Z. He's constant throughout the book and he never leaves. The book is set up with the interviewer talking to the characters, explaining their point of view of World War Z. All this information ties into the info, and this is how the book is submitted. J is for Jessica Hendricks. Jessica Hendricks is a native Canadian. She's a refugee that lived in the wilderness with her father and other refugees. They lived off of self-reliance, which is a huge no-no in any survivalist situation. Jessica takes the go-getter attitude and leads the group with tons of resilience and will. K is for the K9 Corps. The K9 Corps were trained dogs that were supposed to identify early infected humans. These dogs were prone to barking at these infected individuals, and the military would take care of the infected, which usually ended up with death or expulsion of the area. L is for love. This ties into the K9 Corps through the expulsion of the area. These families would be ripped apart. These refugees were desperate. They were trapped between their infections and being rounded up and treated by their own government. If you had a loved one, a family member, a child who was infected, and you thought there was a shot of hope in some other country, wouldn't you do everything in your power to get there? Wouldn't you want to believe there was hope? M is for Mary Jo Miller. Mary Jo Miller is the average American suburban housewife. She's my favorite character out of the book. She goes from baking cookies for the neighborhood boys to decapitating zombies in the street. She's a very go-getter, badass archetype, I would describe. N is for the United Nations Post-War Commission. United Nations Post-War Commission is hailed as the origin of the stories told by the narrator. He collected information from these people to document the accounts of the history of the zombie war. The series of interviews was used for storing what to do if the same problem were to arise again. Also similar to the quote, war never changes. O is for Fernando Oliveira. Fernando Oliveira was a heart surgeon from Brazil. He was actually a legal heart surgeon from Brazil. He is described as a cocky person that would be considered a mercenary for medical reasons. His portrayal as a character relates to the greed of other people in the book. P is for primitivity. Primitivity. The primitivity is a common theme throughout the book. The quote from Mike Tyson perfectly describes what happens when everybody is threatened. Once a person is threatened, all stability is thrown out the window. Nobody cares for others. They just want to survive. This quote, "Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth," by Mike Tyson. And here's a nice gif of somebody having a plan on how to win. Then he just gets kneed in the face and knocked out. You never predict what's going to happen. Q is for questioning. Everybody is questioning what will happen to the human race if they all die out. This leads to people committing suicide or just living the rest of their life with a YOLO attitude, meaning that they don't care what happens. They just want to live their life to the fullest at the moment. They think the end is near, so they forget their morals and act like animals. Then we have this nice gif of Conan. Morality is a prison and life is inherently meaningless. Which is definitely satire, but I found it nice. R is for Radio Free Earth. The Radio Free Earth was an interesting concept that stemmed from South Africa. Their message is simply spreading awareness for everybody. It's symbolic for unifying the world instead of just singular groups. Keyword, Earth. The station delivers information such as philosophical thoughts of coming together to tackle the problem. It's a team effort. No need to pick sides. S is for the Solden virus. Solden virus is the infamous name for the virus that is flooding the world with zombies. Medical practitioners first assumed the virus was a form of rabies because of how it makes infected sensitive to light and their aggressiveness to bite other humans. The Solden virus can be transmitted from biting or through organ transplants. Early infected people cannot be detected with the virus, so they could pass it on through bodily fluids. T is for Todd Wayno. Todd Wayno was an infantryman during the multiple battles in the United States. He is the most prevalent character in the story, too. In the book, you see the battles of the zombie war through his eyes. He is a small part of the cog taking down the zombies. If everyone does their part in the solution, if everyone does their part, is the solution to the global problem. U is for the United States of America. The United States was a very prominent figure and setting during the story. It was littered with zombies all over the East Coast. That's when the plan to travel east across the Rocky Mountains and start living there was activated. The United States eventually came back to a full nation, lived peacefully after the zombies are mostly eradicated off the continent. V is for Vice President, or the Wacko. The Vice President of the United States was considered a logical but wacko man, as you can tell from his name. He's actually a really good leader, though. Throughout the story, I would compare him to a modern-day Teddy Roosevelt. Crazy, but a very good leader throughout the book. He made well-thought-out choices that led to the country to a very bright future. W is for Warfare. Warfare plagues the earth every single day. War is something that never changes except for what is being fought over, with or why. This is a quote from the book, "I thought I was ready for anything." He looks out of the valley as his eyes unfocused. Who in his right mind could have been ready for this? This captures the uncertainty of what the world is really holding back on during wartime. X is for Max Brooks. Max Brooks is the author of World War Z. World War Z was formulated and taken thoroughly by this brilliant man. His ideas have been adapted into the 2013 film called World War Z 2. He did tons of research and filled every square inch of this book with some new form of knowledge or character development. Then, here's another gif of him on Conan, saying, "Oh, I have eye polio." He's a funny guy. Y is for Yonkers. Not just Yonkers, but the Battle of Yonkers. This is a very climactic part in the story, where the government comes to the realization of how harmless they are to the zombies. Their state-of-the-art technology can only do a dent to the zombie population of Manhattan. And here's some nice concept art that I found of the bridge being flooded with zombies. Z is for Patient Zero. Patient Zero was a boy in China that had gotten sick from the Yangtze River. He had this unknown virus which nobody particularly knew what it was. He was the beginning of this massive virus. He was diving in the sea. Never mind. That is the ending of my presentation. Thank you very much.